Hello, I'm Tony Ko, the host of TalkIT Global. How is the conversational AI ChatGPT, which has amazed many people recently, created to enable such human-like conversations? The predecessor of ChatGPT, the large-scale language model GPT 3.0 released by OpenAI, did not exhibit the same level of natural human-like conversation or remarkable summarization capabilities that ChatGPT demonstrates. So what sparked the tremendous evolution of ChatGPT? I initially assumed that a single, brilliant AI algorithm had suddenly created ChatGPT. Surprisingly, the key to ChatGPT's training was that a vast number of people provided feedback and pre-guided the AI by individually answering questions beforehand. Let's hear a straightforward explanation from Daewoo Choi, CEO of Agilesoda, a company specializing in reinforcement learning and AI natural language processing.
The structure of ChatGPT involves a technique called RLHF, which stands for Reinforcement Learning from Human Feedback. This means that the generative nature of the model, which can produce unpredictable outputs, is controlled through human feedback. ChatGPT was built upon GPT-3. So what changed? Through human feedback, people evaluated responses by saying, "This answer makes sense," or "This doesn't contain offensive language." And they assigned scores based on these evaluations. This feedback created a reward function, which was then used to apply reinforcement learning. Many people focus on GPT-3 when discussing ChatGPT, but I think the remarkable technology lies in the RLHF approach. It showed how inference could be controlled in this manner.
Especially in terms of generation.
Since the generative process produces unpredictable outputs, refining it through RLHF is indeed a remarkable achievement. This method helps in refining the model to ensure that the outputs are sensible and appropriate.
What you mentioned involves refining the model through human feedback, which is essentially fine-tuning it. Do you think that to continue advancing with future versions like ChatGPT 4 and ChatGPT 5, ongoing human interaction and feedback will be necessary?
I think this approach is necessary. Although the technology has advanced and the process of creating GPT and then fine-tuning it with RLHF is in place, companies like OpenAI, which gather the brightest minds, manage to create a seamless architecture. However, I believe human effort will continue to be crucial in this process.
Many people are currently experimenting with ChatGPT, trying various things. Can our interactions, such as saying good job or giving feedback, be considered part of the reinforcement learning process through human feedback that you mentioned?
I think they might use such feedback as background data. It could be utilized as a qualitative evaluation metric.
We know that AlphaGo also used reinforcement learning for pre-training. Initially, it learned from human game records, but later, AlphaGo Zero achieved superhuman proficiency by playing against itself without any human assistance. Could ChatGPT, which also uses reinforcement learning, rapidly improve by having conversations with itself, similar to AlphaGo Zero without requiring extensive pre-training feedback from humans?
In domains with clear reward systems, like board games such as Go, this approach might be feasible. However, for something like ChatGPT, where the reward for conversations is not as clear-cut, such as determining who had the better conversation, it becomes much more challenging.
The criteria are too general and abstract.
It's like asking two people to debate and then deciding who did better, which is quite difficult to judge. That's why it might not be as straightforward.
While this approach seems plausible for general tasks, it might be more applicable in specific domains within companies.
In specific corporate domains, there are often clear criteria for what is considered good or bad. Therefore, controlled responses and evaluations are possible. However, for extremely complex and large language models focused on generation, like LLMs with around 200 billion parameters, this might not be necessary. Instead, for business purposes, using an understanding model with around 100 million parameters, combined with fine-tuned models based on the company's text or VOC data, would be much more efficient. This approach leverages existing data and smaller, more focused models to achieve the desired outcomes.
Have you ever seen a swan gracefully gliding across a lake? Yet beneath the surface, the swan is paddling furiously to stay afloat. When you learn about how ChatGPT works, doesn't it remind you of a swan?
In fact, this is likely a common concern for all companies working with artificial intelligence. The AI business is both labor-intensive and capital-intensive, and ChatGPT clearly demonstrates this. It required an enormous amount of capital and involved generating 6 billion pieces of data from human feedback to perform RLHF, reinforcement learning from human feedback. So, despite the apparent automation, a tremendous amount of human effort is still necessary.
It's paradoxical, isn't it?
Yes, it's paradoxical. I always think of a swan when I consider this.
Lastly, your likes and subscriptions greatly empower us to continue creating content. Thank you for your support.